All right, so I can call the meeting to order at 6:01. And we can do roll call. I'll start. Kelly Tarbell.
David Martin.
Katie Kochkowski.
Jen McCulkey, Jamie Dickey,
Lane Millington.
Deb Higuera,
Cheryl Hammond.
Right, Pat Bader.
Thank you. And Julie's online, as well as Louisa Millington. And Amber, you're back there too, right? You see Amber, right? Okay.
And we're recording, so.
Okay. It is recording. Okay, good. Okay, so then I would look for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Thank you. Any additions or deletions?
I'm still trying to get connected to the Wi-Fi, but I didn't see in the agenda anything on teacher contract negotiations. Is that correct?
I don't think there was anything at that point.
Support staff, but you can also add that if you want.
Support staff is in there. Can we
Yeah,
add teacher?
I usually comment on it during superintendent's report.
Okay. Just so it's officially part of the agenda.
Trying to read where it was. Sorry. Under old business. So we'll add it under, what is that, 5-6?
Sounds good to me.
Okay. Any other additions or deletions? Right. All those of approving the agenda as amended?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? That wasn't an opposed. That was just a late hand raise, Julie. Okay.
Yes.
Sure. All right, then I would look for a motion to approve the August 13th regular meeting minutes.
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay. All right. All those in favor of approving the August 13th meeting minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Anybody opposed? Perfect. That brings us to community input, public comment. Anybody want? Sorry that my back was to you. It's the only way I have plug in ability though. Is there anybody here that wants to speak? No, nothing. Thank you. I did have a communication. I'll read it. It's brief. I add it up. Now what did I do with it? Community member emailed, I think they were a little bit confused, but that's okay. I understand that you're the chair of the TRSU school board. I'm not LMH board, but thank you for your service there. I'm a parent of a Mount Holly with a child in the TRSU. I am unable to attend tonight's school board meeting, but I'm writing to express support for the teachers looking to contribute to sit down with the school board to negotiate contracts. It feels unsettling to have teachers without contracts and seems reasonable to continue negotiations and work towards a fair solution. Thank you, Matt Tripp, sorry. So I can forward that to you, Lane, so that you have it. And I don't know if it needs to be attached to minutes or not. But there we go.
I guess it's also, I was at the public comment. I was at the select board meeting in Mount Holly last night, and one parent came and to complain about the cleanliness at the Mount Holly school. And she thought the hallways were particularly dirty, and not now, but she wasn't talking about this year specifically, but with all the stuff, the kid stuff piled there. She said, we never used to be able to put our things in the hallway. We always had to find a place to put them away. And then she said that the baseboards in the classroom weren't always clean. So I have no idea. I'm merely relaying a comment.
Thank you.
I told her I'd do that, so I did.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
This is my first time at Mount Holly. I just thought it was really nice. As we walked through the hallway, I thought it was nice. Just thought I would add that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any board comment? I just congratulate the Benson family on their baby. Katie and Trevor had a little baby yesterday. Any other? We're good? All right. District report, superintendent's report.
Yeah, most of what's in the actual written report is pretty self-explanatory unless people have questions. There are two pieces, I think, to talk a little bit about. The first is that we did have our open forums, bringing the community in to have a facilitated discussion about a communication to the redistricting committee in Montpelier. We ran one here, we ran one over at Green Mountain. We had pretty good turnout here. We had a lot of turnout, especially online at Green Mountain. The concerns, probably in terms of the top three, are ones that I think the board and myself have shared for a little while now. With the major one being, what happens to voice, local voice, and if that local voice goes away, what happens to equity in these larger districts? How can we be assured that as a smaller school system, potentially within a much larger district area, that we're going to be getting a fair share of the resources that exist? The other biggest concern that came up and was discussed in quite a bit of detail, obviously, was travel time for kids and how that's going to be effectively managed, especially considering the lack of bus drivers across the state, the lack of a state sponsored program to actually develop school bus drivers. And so those are a couple of things. There's some more the things that are a little bit more nuanced, but those are the biggies the majority of the time is spent on. So what's going to happen, I'm going to review the videos one more time, consolidate all the comments into a draft communication that will go out to the community, go out to the teachers, and try to solicit a little bit more feedback before that communication is actually sent off to the redistricting. Hope is to have it in their hands first week of October and to have the draft out by the beginning of the last week of September for people to comment on. The other piece, and again, goes back to the redistricting, and it's good that the teachers are here because it's one of the pieces that was not discussed a lot during the legislative session that resulted in their Act 73 and their redistricting plan was the actual impact that would happen on teaching staff. They talked about, obviously, right, having minimum class sizes, but they never put a number on what that meant. And given the fact that it was very difficult to actually get those numbers to do the calculations means they probably didn't look at it at all. There are 8,000 teachers approximately in the state of Vermont. There are 6,400 that are classroom teachers specifically. Given the minimum class sizes, at a minimum, the state will be laying off at least 1,400 teachers to be in compliance with that law. So I think that's important for folks to know, especially as they haven't voted on a final disposition for the redistricting. That'll happen this coming legislative session. So that information, primarily from myself to the redistricting committee, will be communicated to them as well. There was a communication that this board approved that was sent to the committee about a week and a half or so ago. There has been no response, not even an acknowledgement that it was received. So it leaves a little bit of concern about whether or not they are living up to the letter of the law in terms of considering information that is coming in from the communities. There's a all state superintendents meeting tomorrow. So hopefully I'll learn a little bit more about what's happening. Those are the biggies, I think, that are out there right now.
Maybe just add that they did on their website post our comment. So that they have a list. They have a list of all the public comments they've received.
Yeah.
And so we're on the list, and then you click on it, and it shows exactly what we sent. Good. So at least it's there.
Yeah.
Whether they read it,
who knows?
Who knows? But
yeah. And I don't mean to disparage. I think the people that are on the committee are genuine. I think some of them have actually expressed the fact that they're not happy about the job they've been called upon to do. So I think it's going to be a time all around.
And just to clarify, the layoff situation is a worst case scenario
That's a best case scenario based on the law.
That's the best case scenario?
based on the absolute amount that would have to be cut to get to their minimums across the state. I was able to find state data on the number of teachers at each grade level, right? Because the class sizes, minimums change depending upon the grade levels. So it's a pretty solid calculation. The other piece, I think we've probably touched on it before, is digging into the numbers for this massive change. If the savings that the governor predicted are actually realized, and I will say they won't be, but by some miracle, if they are, the result for the average taxpayer is minimal. You have a $2.7 billion education budget, and you're looking at cutting 184 million. So if you have a $6,000 tax bill, if this change goes through and it works out perfectly the way that they planned it, your taxes will go down by $340. So again, with me, money's money. It's important. But unless you're cutting my taxes in half, I do not see the value of the amount of chaos that this is potentially going to bring across the state.
Do you think we should anticipate any changes based on midterm elections?
My guess is, and the hope is that there's a higher percentage chance that when the redistricting report is submitted on December 1st, and it's in people's faces about what it actually means, they will start to get the feedback that they so desperately need. And I have a feeling that the legislature will fail to act. What that will result in, I don't know, but apparently, it'll probably come to a screeching halt at that point in time. There is a provision in there that if the legislature fails to act, that it goes over to the state school board. And the expectation is that they'll vote on which of the redistricting plans has been presented. And again, they could also choose to fail to act. So I think it'll be an interesting time. I don't think we have any idea of what's going to happen until we see what people's reactions are to that redistricting plans being presented. The other concern that I have, and it's good that the teachers are here as well, is, the superintendents across the state, we're going to be the ones that are having to manage those staffing changes. I am extremely concerned that there has been absolutely no consideration for a safety net to make sure that people who are in the place of losing their jobs, there is no plan in place to help them transition and land on their feet. Has never been discussed about, does not seem to be a part of the plan. So those are areas where we definitely can work together if folks are so inclined.
Has there been any discussion about higher end buyouts for retirement or early retirement or anything? I didn't think so, but I thought it's worth asking.
There was a document I saw for the first time today that I didn't get to read completely through, but it kind of listed, it was like a framework of all the little parts and pieces that needed to be addressed. I didn't see it in there, but I also didn't do a full read. I didn't have time between when I saw it today and then. But it has not been discussed, and not having that safety network is deeply concerning.
To me, all of this uncertainty underpins the necessity to kind of get our teachers as protected as we can get them, which is getting contracts in place.
The piece that goes along with the wonderful idea that you're talking about was, if I recall, at the very beginning of this process, one of the things the state was doing was checking in with the legal scholars to see what rights the legislature had in terms of union contracts and labor agreements. And apparently, based on the feedback that they've got, they have all the control over it, depending upon what the legislature wants. So again, this is going to be a busy legislative season, and I think whichever side you're on, you got to be active in it, because things could spiral to a place that will be hard to recover from if folks aren't careful. I wish you were happy, right?
No, that's-
So I apologize for that. But
Did we not realize the state doesn't know how to manage anything efficiently?
Or did you?
it's hard to have long-term planning, which something like this needs. When people are changing positions, especially, with people getting elected and not over the course of time. I think it's one of the failures of our system is that long-term planning piece. That a lot of the more urgent issues across the state and across the country, and they can't be carried out just because of the solutions.
I feel like we've done this 3 or 4 times and it just gets worse each time. And I don't know when they're going to not figure that out.
Nothing's getting better.
Are you also, any other
Unless there's questions.
for Lane? Principals reports?
Thank you. So do you want me to read it or did you guys all read it?
We got it. I'm
Well, I mean,
sorry,
got it.
I'm finding it in the pile again because I don't know which is easier. Sorry.
Okay, why don't I just kind of go through some of the highlights?
The highlights.
Okay, so buildings and grounds, facilities, the crew did an amazing job. All the building and grounds conditions were in excellent shape for our opening. We were able to upgrade the lighting in the gym over the summer, and we were able to, we're eligible for a complete rebate for all the bulbs from Efficiency Vermont, the new LED bulbs. So that's a great help with our costs for that project. And Al was also able to replace the lighting in just about all of the classroom spaces and office spaces. There's 1 or 2 left that are being finished this week. So yeah, great. And people have noticed it, like kids and parents and staff have all said, oh, wow, they could see the book. So nice. So, staffing, basically we were able to fill all of our teacher and paraeducator positions, except for one that we're still in the final stages of completing. On bad news is we are losing our school-based clinician in a week. Jess Pierce has been wonderful. I want to thank her for what a great job she's done over the years. She's transitioning to a position at Green Mountain Middle and High School. And she's excited for that because she wants a chance to work with middle and high school students. And it's definitely a more convenient commute for her. So totally understand that. No changes to the staffing of the classroom structure or anything like that over the summer. And our enrollment is currently 90 students, pre-K to 6. A lot of new families and kids, which really helped because we had that big graduating 6th grade class. I was worried we were going to dip even further. We have the open house and book fair coming up on the 25th on Thursday at 6. Hoping for a good turnout as we always have. After school program opened day before yesterday. Our MAPS assessment window opened. We have a district and service day on Monday, the 15th. We have a pretty interesting BMX bike program, the 23rd. And I think we're gonna, I'm not sure if we've decided which what location, but we're working together so both of our student bodies and staff can be part of that. So it'll be pretty exciting seeing all these different tricks and because of the wonderful program Ted does, kids are so passionate about biking and it'll be great. And then on the 30th, we have school picture day. And then that's most of the highlights. I'm happy to answer any questions.
I don't know that it's a question, but I just happened to stop and get a protein bar for dinner at Food Mart. There were a couple of young kids riding bikes and doing tricks in the parking lot. They were having a blast.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it has to do with their lessons in gym.
Yeah, yeah, true. And people come on the weekends and over the summer and they're using all of the features. You know, there's jumps and rollers and berms, there's pump track. So it's pretty cool.
Skateboarding also gained in popularity across the board.
Yes.
And now there's a paved road down Hortonville towards Shrewsbury. So that is a new skate park in Mount Holly.
Ted, what are you doing with the kids?
And I know it's not public comment, but while we have a lot of our special teachers here, I just want to say thank you to them. I know we're missing Mary and guidance, but we have such a wealth. And when we're talking about consolidation and all of this other pulling, it's something we need to think about. Rachel had like this masterpiece up from kindergartners in 3 days after school started in the hallways. Hence, I mean, I had a student from back at open house the other night and who is on the mountain bike team that you would never expect as a result of biking. Julie's in there on last Saturday all day, putting out the book fair stuff. So I think we just need to acknowledge.
Yeah, I'll second that.
And Mary here, and of course, is a stunning music
Yeah.
teacher. She's not here, but
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And really all of our staff.
I know, but I think
Yeah.
we don't often shout them out as much.
Yeah, it's nice to put the spot on Central Arts. But we are so fortunate to have such dedicated folks working here in both of our schools.
All right, so highlights, family and community engagement. As a school, we met last spring and we came up with a motto, learn, grow, succeed. So that's been the foundation of what we do at Ludlow, and our values are being safe, courteous, and responsible. So we're working on making sure that happens. We've brought back weekly assemblies and we meet on Friday afternoon, celebrate birthdays, review our motto, and we'll be talking about school charters in the next couple of weeks. So that's back in place. A shout out to Julie Gorai and our PTG. We had our open house and back to school night on last Thursday night and huge success. We had the Kona ice truck. Julie had the book fair open and available and kids were able to visit classrooms. So that was a great night and a great way to kick off the school year. ASP began today. Many of our families take advantage of that, particularly since we still are working on a bus driver. Lisa Marks is starting a new program or working with a group called Finding Our Stride. It's a running program. And she'll be doing that after school with grades 3 through 6. And they'll be doing a final 5K towards the end of October. So we're excited about that. As Craig said, our buildings and grounds maintenance worked really hard this summer. It was probably the best our building has looked at the start of the school year. So I want to just thank Mike, Chet, and Lisa for making sure that our building, not this Lisa, different Lisa, was in great shape. We are still looking for a bus driver. I reached out to first student today and have been talking with them. They needed to know distance and things, and I've called a couple of other people. Indeed has brought in some candidates from Abu Dhabi and Atlanta, Georgia, and people who live an hour and a half away, and so it's a work in progress, but hopefully we'll be able to have something in place. Our fall assessment window opens this week. We'll share those results out to families mid-October. Last year, we had great positive feedback from families when they received the letter and the reports kind of explaining what those were. So we'll do that again this year. And I do have the VT-CAP spring assessment data that did come in, but it's currently embargoed. So if you want to see it, we would have to go into executive session, or I can bring it back next time and share it during the executive session. You just let me know what you need. And that's all I have. You mentioned Picture Day. What's Picture Day for Ludlow? Picture Day for Ludlow is, I believe it is in November, was the first that we could get Life Touch to come to Ludlow, but I can double check, Jamie, and ask Jen to put that in our newsletter this week.
I think it would be wonderful to hear about the test scores next time.
What?
I think it would be wonderful to hear about the test scores next time.
Sure.
We won't have MAPS testing by then though, right? So
We should.
we should,
We
okay.
should. The testing window closes on October 3rd.
Okay,
So we should be able to have assessment data for you at our October meeting.
that would be great. Thank you. Any other questions for Deborah Craig?
And is it okay with you if we, we can do the maps in an open session, but
Right, right, yeah.
with the embargo, it's not likely to be lifted until March
Or
next year.
Other questions for Deborah Craig?
Yeah, the calendar says November 3rd. Let's make sure that.
I just found it, November 3rd, Jamie.
Thank you. Oh, now it's shuffled like, there we go. Facilities report.
We can touch on that. I forgot to mention the BOCES. I have actually talked with some of the principals, some of the regional superintendents, and we're actually in conversations about combining some resources. The original thought, I think, when the board had kind of brought this up and to investigate, was potentially about combining resources around, special education services and things like that. We were already a part of the Vermont Southern Collaborative, which kind of covers those parts and pieces. This initiative here came out of Act 73, which allows districts to form together into collaboratives to try to combine services. They are doing that in our region, but there is a steep entry fee, right? There's an annual amount that each district has to pay to be a part. And a lot of what we would be getting from them, we are getting anyway. With one of those things being, we're having discussions about sharing students, especially at the high school level, allowing them to access the other schools if they're in need of AP courses that their own school does not provide. So that's kind of a minimal start, but we've already got 3 students over at Green Mountain that are coming in from other districts that are there as full-time students to take advantage of the AP programming. And so there's a discussion on Friday that we're going to have about this to try to solidify, the plans around that sort of sharing at this point in time. Unless the board feels otherwise, I don't see any cost savings to joining that group yet. But if and when that materializes, I'll be the first one to come back and say, yeah, it's time. It's worth paying the $7,500 entry fee for this because the savings will be much more.
And the savings should be realized by using their programs versus programs we're currently using.
Well, here's the thing. It's the whole Act 46 all over again, right? It's okay. The savings would potentially come from cutting staff. It's because you're combining, and the hope is that, if we're all sharing a single special education director who's covering all these services for 15 districts now, that's the concept, but it's kind of headed on. So
And the programs would be regional as well, but in probably one location, correct? Like kids tuitioning into the Ludlow program versus maybe some Ludlow kids going to a Springfield program or a Windsor program if they had it, right?
From what I can tell with a read of it, the design is really to use less staff to do the same amount of work across a larger area. And so the savings eventually, would come from the less staff.
So our most vulnerable kids be traveling further and further
Potentially.
and with less and less staff.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
But the positive, because unfortunately there's been a lot of negative we've been talking about tonight. The positive is that it does open up the door to some things that could be beneficial, like the AP work, right? A lot of schools, especially in Vermont, they struggle with finding ways to provide an extended curriculum to the students that are ready for it. And this is one of the ways it's starting to open that door.
Might it also be possible to have in-house special ed program for kids who are currently being sent to private schools someplace?
And we're building that here over at the high school as we speak. I think one of them has 12 students in it and one of them has 16 at this point in time.
I mean, I can imagine that there are some specialized services that we might not have enough students for within our district. And if we were to combine with Springfield or somebody else, that together there would be enough. I mean, nothing specific, just seems to me it's something to keep our eyes open for.
Yeah. And Peter Burrows is one of the folks that, we're interacting with on this on the AP. So as those things come up, I'll definitely bring information back here. And if there's ideas that come up from the board or from the community of ways that we might be able to combine stuff that are effective, certainly I can bring it up to that group. Questions on that before we head on the facilities?
I have a
So
question.
yeah.
Hi. I thought Ludlow already hosts a program like that.
They have the, you want to speak on it? You want me to on the autism?
So we have an autism program, which we call Treehouse at Ludlow Elementary School. It serves several students from in the TRSU district, as well as several students from outside our TRSU district. And it's housed in our building, and it does meet some needs, but it's pretty intense, and it's a high needs program.
Needs a very, very specialized staff. We've been lucky sometimes, and sometimes they're hard to find when there's openings for it.
We also had a social and emotional learning program also on the Ludlow campus. And then the lead teacher for that relocated, I think, out of state. And so, correct me if I'm wrong, Lane, but the thought is to bring that back to a lot of, you don't want to build too many programs too quickly.
Yeah.
So kind of slow and steady and do the high quality job. But that's another need. We do have upper elementary kids that are out of district placements that are expensive and far away.
And I think the logic the last time Mary and I connected was having trouble finding a person to be able to run that program. And so the priority has shifted a little bit because there's such a need in the preschool, at the preschool age. She's looking at, crafting a program to serve those students' needs because it looks like she does have able to get some specialized staff that would be ideal for that. And so that's currently, where things are sitting the last time I spoke with her.
Yeah, that's definitely true. That's a priority. Yeah. I will say one thing I'd like to add is, when a student has kind of more intensive needs, whether they're, social, emotional, or otherwise, if they're in and out of district placement and they're far away, it's sort of an all or nothing situation. Whereas when we have these programs, and I really give Mary a lot of credit for, getting the life skills program into GM and the SEL program into GM. It's a lot that's being built in a short period of time, but again, not too rapidly. And the beauty of it, I think, is we all really support inclusion. So if a student with needs in either of Ludlow's programs or either of GM's programs can step by step incrementally get back, even if it's just a little bit at a time, into the regular fifth grade class or the whichever class it is, and find some success and start to be part of their peer group and not be isolated. That is really what we want to be doing. And if they start to falter or need some more support, and the therapeutic classroom is, needed even for, a short time to kind of build some skills so that another attempt can be made toward mainstreaming, that's good for all of our kids, whether they're struggling with social and emotional issues or behaviors, or whether they're typical or atypical in terms of their neurodiversity. So a lot of districts don't get that right. And I know we're striving to do that, and it's hard to do because of all the churn and finding really high quality staff that have the expertise and the skills to do this really challenging work.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's an important advantage of doing it in something in-house.
Yeah. And the other piece that's true is on the success rates. You know, we've talked on and off here, and it's going to be a little bit larger focus on the special education side of things about developing the independent skills of the students as opposed to, you know, supporting them, but not necessarily shifting the burden over to them over the course of time with that support. So eventually they're independent. I don't know of many students, if any of it at all, that have gone out to an outplacement and come back. And, you know, to me, you know, in terms of just looking at the data and what it implies, that typically would indicate to me that they're not learning the skills despite the high cost of learning.
That's a super important point, I think, because you first of all have to have the programs, and they have to be staffed well here in our district. And then you've got to work really closely with Kindle Farm or whatever program you're talking about to set targets to be like, okay, what are the skills necessary to then get back to one of our in-district programs that can then be the bridge to being back in an inclusive setting.
Is there like a consistency piece though? Because it seems like could be a little disruptive if someone's moving from, you know, one's environment to another, and then that doesn't work, and then they're back, and then they, you know, back again.
So part of that and how we approach it is it's incremental, and when kids are ready, they join, and it could be for 5 minutes while attendance is being taken, or, you know, and again, SEL is very different than autism. But it may be that they go in for snack, or they join the class for the first 5 minutes of morning meeting. So it's slow, and it's at a pace of what those kids can tolerate, what they can handle.
Okay.
And so our kids at Ludlow are very welcoming, and they join us for lunch, and sometimes they come to specials. It really depends on where they are in their day and whether or not they are able to regulate. And our kids have been phenomenal with letting them be part of their school community. And our teachers have been phenomenal at welcoming them into their classrooms as well.
That's awesome.
So it's just very heartwarming to see how our school community wraps around everyone.
It's they're really good programs. The way that they're set up, I've seen them in multiple districts. Because again, it's about that independence piece. The students just are lacking a skill that is keeping them out of the regular classroom. So they have an opportunity to develop that skill with the person in the more secluded environment, and then go practice it in the classroom. And if things don't work the way that are expected, they have a place to retreat to, kind of re-strategize, readjust, and go out and try it again until things are right. And typically, I can't speak so much for the elementary level. My experience is primarily middle and high. But what we would do in those cases is with a high school student say, okay, you know, of all your classes, which one's your favorite?
Yeah.
Because those are the ones where they're likely going to have the most success with the skills that they're learning.
Driver's ed.
That's true at the end. Yeah.
You want to go back?
So that's where you start them, and you kind of build them up.
And it is really individualized, because some kids are like, my favorite thing is math. And other people are like, oh, I don't like that. So we do that at the elementary level too. We start with high engagement, high interest.
It's great.
To increase the chances. But your point, Katie, is also well taken. That's why slow, steady, incremental, with lots of supports and lots of practice, and not trying to, you know, set a kid up for not being successful. Yeah. It's very challenging. It's really tough to find the right balance.
My memory is that in addition to the significant educational benefits, that it was actually helpful financial decision for the district. I remember Lauren, your predecessor, and a former board member, a colleague, talking about when they, to stand up those programs and keep those students within the district, it ended up netting a significant savings for us on the out of district placements as well. So I think, with residents and things really paying attention to how we are, conscientiously using tax dollars, that is certainly an important aspect.
Yeah, that is a really important point, Julie. And it is also important to note that sometimes, finding a lead teacher and standing up the program can have an initial cost. So it can feel like, oh gosh, we're already trying not to spend more money, but pretty rapidly that return on the investment really multiplies. And we're talking really substantial amounts of money to save. And it's what's right? Like the law is least restrictive, a fair, free access to your education. So if you have to drive an hour and a half each way to get to some specialized program, that's not right.
Well, what's going to happen when they change all our districts? How's that free and fair?
We'll be going an hour and a half anyways. All right.
I don't think so. I think there's enough people in rural towns in Vermont to defeat Act 73. We just can't just be resigned to let it happen. It's a disaster. Like we thought Act 46 was bad. This is like, can't even think of a word I can say in public. It's really not a good idea. It's not, as Lane said, it's not going to save any money. So we need to get ourselves organized.
Facilities report?
Yeah, following up on the board request, I know that Todd met with a contractor who came out, took a look at the roofs. He's going to generate the two pieces that we talked about at the TRSU meeting. What is the cost of a full replacement versus what is the cost of repairing the areas that are in need? And more importantly, with that second cost estimate is how long will those repairs last? So I don't want to get folks' hopes up, but it sounds in the ballpark to me from my experience is when the contractor was walking away, he stated, my guess is to do the whole roof is about $234,000. We'll see if he comes back with that, and if he does, that's something I would say we need to hold him to it, and get it done if we can.
I could add one thing if you'd like, Leo.
Sure.
I was there, so Todd and I met with Ryan, and it did seem like it was I was kind of not expecting very good news. And he kind of described like there's sections of the roof that are relatively like above the cafe that are kind of separate, but then there's this long stretch right above us from here down to that. And so he said you could conceivably, if we couldn't do the whole thing all in one shot, you could do some separate sections, and then you wouldn't want to do that with some things because you need it to be fully integrated. So you don't want to the new one to stop here and the old one to stay, and then joining them is really hard. So there's a limit to that, but we had to do a big part of it and then maybe finish off the little pieces at the end a year later or something. That's another option.
Prices are only going to go up though.
Yeah, he said that. He said if you can swing it, if it's whatever, a manageable amount that we could do out of our capital fund in 1 year, that's definitely preferable.
Didn't we also, though, do repairs last year and it should be in an okay state?
Yeah, he did address that too. He said if we weren't ready to either do sections or the whole thing, he's going to give us a third number for just, it sounded pretty minor because they did a few $1,000s for repair, and there might be some things he thought might be prudent that are not things that where you're going to throw away money if you then do another phase. Because that's another principle he talked about is you don't want to be doing it so piecemeal that then you're ripping up things you just repaired within the last couple of years.
Right.
That's not very cost effective.
Cheryl, do you know roughly how much is left from, we had, 300 something thousand for
There's
capital?
165,000 right now, and we have 350,000 in this year's budget to put into it. But we're waiting for cash to flow a little better before we move it.
So 5-ish.
515
Ish.
ish. Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Any other questions about facilities?
Al's behind me.
Oh, sorry.
Is there any, I wasn't up there with you guys, unfortunately.
Yeah, you were with the plumber.
Yes, I was.
We had 2 toilets we had to replace.
Have
Heard
you
about that.
this? We've only got one roof on here. Is it feasible to just put another one on top of what we've got? I mean, as long as we stay with just 2 layers, you could re-roof this whole thing a lot cheaper than have to rip the whole thing apart. Well, I'm thinking.
That's a good question. That didn't come up. We could ask them.
Right.
Yeah.
So now we're just putting another layer of roofing on top of what we already have.
Yeah, no, I connect with Todd a couple times a week.
And we could still put a roof vent in and cut that in there. That's the least of our problems. But yeah, that is feasible to do that also. What I think would save a lot of money. A lot of money.
So the idea is a second layer.
Without all the demo. Yeah.
God, yeah.
I have heard of projects that do that. We could. It's a good question. We should ask.
Right. No, I've done homes for a second layer on roofs. I know there is a limit.
Right. You don't want to do that 3 or 4
Right.
times.
Oh, right, exactly. Because of the weight factor, but
Right.
yeah. Just put another on.
So you and Todd are working on that still, and time frame is
But my guess is within a week we should have numbers.
Oh. curriculum?
That's
Hi, thank you for having me tonight. I put a lot of details in my PowerPoint presentation. I don't know if you had a chance to look at it, and if you have any questions. I put details of the substantial training we had during the summer. We had the summer retreat for district leaders, orientation, 4 orientation days for new hires, the opening days, and so forth. All the details are in the PowerPoint. If you have any questions, so please let me know. And for those of you who have the ambition to look into those and you want to know more, just let me know and I can give you all the details. For tonight, last time I presented to this board that there was some interest in the longitudinal data, and I thought I would bring you some data from the DBELS assessment, which is showing us some very nice results. So if you don't have any questions about summer PD days, I'm going to show you some graphs. Do you have any questions before I share my screen? No? Okay, so let me share the screen. And it takes a minute, this Zoom link. It takes a second before it is active, okay? Perfect. So I'm going to show you some data from the DBELS, which is this assessment we use to determine the level of proficiency in reading of our students, and we use it to determine which students are in need of intervention. I have copies for you, and I know Lane brought them to you, and I extrapolated the data at the district level of the DBELS assessment from grades K through 6. Now, not all of the schools are assessing grades 5 and 6. We're going to work on this. This year, there is more interest in all of the schools adopting this data, this assessment. And in terms of a comparison of the same cohort across multiple years, in this case 2, I want to show you a very nice comparison between grades. So let's look at, for instance, on the chart that says DBELS 2023-2024. And let's look, for instance, at the first cohort, the one from kindergarten, and I have my own copy here, so I refer to this one. So the cohort that in 2023-2024 was made of 65 students in kindergarten at the district level, showed 49 students who were in need of intensive support. Now we use the DBELS data to determine intervention, to regroup the students, and to do small group or individual intervention. 1 year later, if you look at this, the graph after, the one labeled 2024-2025, this time we're going to look at the end of the first grade. We're going to see that the number of students in need of intensive support is reduced to 21 students. So we started with 49 students, and after providing them with the support they needed, again, individually or in small groups, 1 year later, only 21 of them are still in a category of intensive support, which is great. So what I did, I put together a summary of these results in a different graph, which you also have in your packet, with a red column showing where the students were in 2024 as compared to where they were at the end of 2025. Now, a small caveat is that some of these cohorts have different number of students, the population fluctuates, sometimes we have an influx of a lot of students, sometimes we lose students. But as a general trend, if you look at this one where the blue is the current status of our students today, you will see that the number of students in need of intensive support is decreasing, which means that our system is working in identifying the students who need additional support and us providing that additional support. And this, again, is a 2-year comparison. I look forward to bringing you more longitudinal data as we collect more assessments, and I will do the same for the VCAP and the maps and so forth at the district level. Do you have any questions? No? Okay, so one other thing I was going to talk to you about, and again, the VCAP assessments are embargoed, but I am allowed to give you some trends, and I can just do it verbally because I can't show you any data. I have all the graphs ready to go. I'm waiting for the state to release the embargo, and then I'll bring you some 2-3 year comparison as you suggested last time I was presenting for you. So at the district level, we have seen that in ELA, the students showed a better performance since 3rd grade by cohort. And then there was a decline in grades 8 and 9, which doesn't affect your district because that will be more the GM district. In math, we have better performance from 3rd grade and all the way through 6th. There is again a decline at the middle school level. And for science, the 5th graders, and this is not the same cohort, but the same grade, the students did better overall. Now, I do have also the trends for the schools for the VCAP assessment, and overall, again, I can only speak about the trends. There is a nice trend on increasing on the scores in terms of proficiencies, and some grades show a steady performance. And in general, these performances are really, really promising. We see a nice increase at all grade levels. And there are a couple of exceptions, but all in all of the performances show a nice increase. And for science as well. Unfortunately, I can't show you any data. Lane has seen the graphs and he has the percentages, and I can't do much until they disembargo the grade. And I have the 3-year comparison for you on the VCAP, which we can now generate.
So we can do a comparison for we only done Bologna for 2 years?
Yes, we can, and I will bring it to you as soon as they disembargo them. And I already actually have the graphs because we get to see them, but we can't disclose them during public meetings. As Deb told you, if there is interest, we can. And she said, on executive sessions, or maybe next month, potentially we will be able to show some data.
Thank
Did you say next month, Lisa?
Maybe. I said potentially. I said, but I'm like this. Last year they disembargoed them in January. So really, I'm hoping this year they're going to be a little faster. I'm like keeping my fingers crossed.
How do we action on the data that we're collecting?
Sorry?
How do we action? Because like numbers are numbers, but like what do we do with these numbers?
So we all of our schools, as well as the SU, have extensive action plans called continuous improvement plans. And so we have identified key areas for improvement and then some very specific strategies to implement. And it's just a series of cycles of inquiry where we, take our theories of action, we implement them, we iterate it however many times it makes sense. And then we, our action plans right now, our SIP plans are
2 years.
2 years. So
We go through
at
2026.
the end of 2026, we'll completely redraft that based on where we are and the growth we've made. And if there's, areas where we didn't get where we wanted.
And is that like at a class level or at an individual level?
So each school has one, and then the SU has one, and we built the SU one first so that there's a high level of commonality among the schools around literacy improvement, math improvement, and social and emotional growth. But we also know that all of our schools are unique and have character and unique, individual needs. And that does go all the way down to the class level. We meet in our teams every week. We also have what's called a multi-level system of support, which integrates all the classroom teachers on one tier with all of our interventionists on a second tier, and then all of our tier 3 special educators, OT, PT, speech. And it's very integrated and coordinated. And that also meets weekly.
Julie, sorry about that.
I have a question.
Can I just add to what Craig said? You might not have been on the board at this point. I can't remember, but it's the improvement plan. We went over it at 3 or 4 meetings, I think, and then we approved it and the state goes to, and they approve it and whatever. So at some point last year, we saw test scores, must have been MAP scores, compared to the improvement plan. And so we'll see that again at some point once those tests will.
MAPS and BT.
So that makes sense. So then just in really like plain stupid terms, like if you see that math scores are improving and reading scores need help, then you kind of put more focus on reading and kind of shift the prioritization.
Yeah. And where we're seeing improvements, whatever the domain, we also, we spend a lot of time figuring out in our teams, how do we leverage those things that are working too? It's not just adjusting the things that aren't going the way we thought they might, and we're not satisfied with that growth. Both.
Okay.
Great questions.
Julie?
I guess mine was kind of the converse of the question that Katie asked. What are are you able to identify the specific strategies and interventions that are resulting in the growth? How specifically are you able to identify sort of what the reasons for the gains are?
The DBELS assessment, for instance, is very specific. It tells you exactly what the student is lacking of and where we need to work the most. And some other like MAPS and IXL and such, they're very individualized. Yes, absolutely. And that's why the intervention is so effective. Absolutely.
So Julie, we have regular data team meetings at each of our buildings, and that looks at a much smaller grain size. So what we're seeing is really almost like satellite data. and we dig down to that street level data. So really down and dirty. And within those data teams, we're able to look specifically at student work samples. We look at different domains from the assessment where they struggle. And then our interventionists, classroom teachers, special educators work collaboratively to build programming within an intervention cycle to meet the needs of where those students are, meet them where they are, and move them forward. And, we're creative, and we flip things around, and we do things a little bit differently in the classroom based on what kids need. If we see a huge gap, then we're going to stop what we're doing, and we're going to dive really into making sure the kids in that class have what they need as they move forward. Does that answer your
Yes,
question?
thank you. Very helpful. Thank you.
Do you have any questions for me or?
Any other questions for curriculum? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Financials?
You have July and August financial in there combined, not a lot of activity, as we start the school year. So there's no teacher pay. And so it's just the activity that happened over the summer and the supplies that we needed to start the school year. So David had asked at the TRC meeting to have a year to date. So I had done the first Word document, but I switched over to an Excel to be able to show you where we are in comparison to last year. I don't know if that's helpful information, but I'll continue to do it this year, and we'll see how that comes out. And so I will use this document and update it, but also add if there's some things that I see that are going to be a problem, that are over budget or that we didn't budget for. This is where I will document about that as well. We'll do a running column list. And then when we get to budget, we can also see what we need to budget for that we didn't previous to budget. One of the questions I think, Kelly, you asked last time when I wasn't here was about the tax anticipation note, and have we borrowed from it? And no, we have not.
Okay.
I try to go out to our treasurers and ask they can give us some money before I go for the loan, the interest one.
Okay, so we still haven't? Okay.
Yeah. And we are knee deep in auditors, so it's been
And the LMC meeting, September 17th. So if we can drag out any borrowing until after then. More question?
Well, we're already locked into our loan, so that's not gonna.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, no, you struck off another thought I had, but it's not really pertinent.
Refinancing your mortgage?
Yeah. I'm not doing that. Mine's good.
Before we move on to the next item,
Yes.
I was just hoping if we can move up the teacher contract discussion, just to honor our time that we've been here. I know that a lot of our teachers would like to head out. I don't know if that's a motion that you
I
can.
think that's next.
Is it next?
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate
I
that.
think so. Yes, granted. So good. We do have one
What
little
else can I
thing.
ask for?
No, that's it. Any questions for Cheryl before we move on?
Yeah, thank you, Cheryl. I think, obviously there's no real data yet because we don't spend, but I like the format. It looks like it should be helpful.
Okay. And if he's opening the window, it sounds like.
It was just like us.
That was me too, but we're good.
I can't take my sweatshirt off.
Oh. All right. Old business, that would be taken care of it. Yeah, that flashes. So we had a discussion about support staff and teacher negotiations. Like, do you want to kick us off on that, or?
So far as the support staff piece, I think that's the easy one right now, and the folks that are on the committee can also pipe in. We're scheduled to have the next meeting on September 15th. The support staff negotiating team on the district side had a work group and made some decisions, very thoughtful about what the support staff were asking. And I think they have actually come up with a plan that hopefully should get us to a resolution relatively shortly. And so I'm very hopeful for that. In terms of the teachers negotiation, there was a work session that had happened a little bit earlier towards the beginning of the summer around trying to fully understand what the costs would potentially be, what the impacts would potentially be, making sure that both sides understood the definitions in terms of, seeking to get all the teachers on the step and column that relates to their actual experience and years of service. And so that sounded like it was productive. It resulted in trying to come back and negotiate despite going to mediation for one round. The biggest problem right now has just been trying to find a common time to meet with everybody's disparate schedules, especially in September. There's a lot going on both sides, and understandably, the Jewish holidays have impacted a lot of members on our side, which has made it difficult to find the time to meet. Lisa right now has done a really good job. She got out a doodle poll. She's narrowed down all the dates that our team has, that the key people can be there. It doesn't necessarily have to be all of us, but the key people are there. And then I don't know, when you guys speak, I don't know if she shared that with you at this point in time, but it will be something that you should probably be seeing within the next 24 hours. Last step that she was at was confirming with Chris on his end, because he's usually the most difficult to know.
So just to be clear, because it's late, there's not, you're not at fact finding or anything. It's still negotiations.
The intent is to come together and negotiate. Yeah.
You're the only one present from the committee. Do you want to have additional input?
The only thing is that I don't think I was at that I don't remember.
There were only a few people at the work session.
I think I was on vacation the last meeting, but and I don't know how. Like, I just got the email from Lisa trying to coordinate dates. So I don't know if that. I kind of got the impression that somebody'd been trying before that to get dates together, but I was just made aware of it.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what the disconnect was, or was because I missed that meeting, or.
Do you know when that date was in the summer, the last time that I used?
July 2nd, wasn't it?
July 2nd.
So it's been like
Sounds about right, yeah.
So it's been more than 2 months. Just a suggestion. I don't know if this is feasible, but it's so hard. And I totally appreciate that scheduling, especially this time of year and over the summer, is difficult, but would it make sense, because this group meets, we don't go around and get each other's availability. We just say, like, this meeting is the second Wednesday of each month or something like that. Would it make sense just to say, like, this is the date, instead of like trying to?
So I'm going to say yes and a no. In my experience, what goes along with what you're saying and my understanding of the law in Vermont is that actual negotiations are not a meeting. So in other words, they don't need to be warned and they do not need to be run like a board meeting. If the subcommittee is meeting amongst itself, it does need to have that happen. And so one of the things that I think has been getting in the way is that the district has had a past practice of running those negotiation sessions like it's a board meeting. And of course, if you don't have a quorum, you can't run. And so that's why, coordinating and getting folks together has been a little bit difficult because you need the quorum. I brought it up once or twice to the team. I'm happy to bring it up again and get Chris's final blessing on it as the legal counsel. And if that's the case, then that'll make life a whole lot easier on everybody.
That was going to be my next suggestion. If Chris is the most difficult to pin down, can we do this without him and just have him look over what's decided on?
You can. One of the concerns, at least from my perspective, having been in a district where I was the face of having to do negotiations. So even though the things that were being presented were not my own, because I'm just a resource, what's the impact if we do this, what's the potential? I get all the animosity from the union, and I do not want to have a poor relationship with the union. So yes, it is possible, but I think you're better off having a body other than the superintendent be the person that's the face of that negotiation.
I think one of my concerns outside of scheduling would be like the financial, like the cost of having him at all of these meetings too. Being the negotiations, and I know it's not unusual for this to go on this long, but it's also not ideal, and it is costing a lot of money to have Chris at all of these negotiations.
Well, he also has the longitudinal history. Cheryl does too. I've only been here. I don't know what the touchstones were in previous negotiations or concerns were, which sometimes will, kind of influence what's going on now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying no, I'm just trying to give you pros and cons.
Yeah.
Like I said, the other district, I was the one that did it. And it does, if you're the one communicating it, even though that may not be what you believe or what you desire, you still get the animosity. Yeah.
I think we did that years ago where the board negotiated with the superintendent. And I don't know when that switched over. But I think in light of all the changes and things that go on and the nuance of the contracts and, I just think it's prudent to have it. I know it's expensive and I know it creates other logistical issues, but negotiating without it, I think it was a lot harder.
Yeah.
Because we're lay people and we don't always know what we don't know.
Right. I think the last thing I wanted to bring up just in terms of scheduling, obviously one of the subcommittee members just had a baby. There's no alts on that committee. So I would like to nominate myself as an alt. So that
Green Mountain's going to be doing the same thing.
Yeah.
I made that request of them.
Okay.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I thought we actually did that.
I think you were covered. Green Mountain seems to be a little bit more problematic than getting everybody.
I think, didn't we do that like 2 months ago though? I
Yeah,
swear we did.
check your sheet.
Yeah, it's not on the sheet because I did just look. It's just Katie and Jen, but I swear we did this a couple months ago.
That was for support staff.
Support staff. Just support staff.
Yeah, so
Okay.
it would be good to have that alternate.
Do you nominate? Do you want to nominate?
Yeah, I nominate Katie Shea
He's going to pronounce it.
as an alternate for the.
Do we have to first vote to have an alternate? That might be.
You need to make the motion. Well,
Right.
Motion,
Okay. So we would
discussion.
first motion would be to add an alternate to the committee. So do we have a motion to add an alternate to the teacher negotiation committee?
I can move, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so moved.
And do we have a second?
Second.
Perfect. Are you hearing that, Amber?
I am, yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right. So all those in favor of adding an alternate to the teacher negotiation committee?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Beautiful. Then would somebody like to nominate somebody to be on said committee as the alternate?
Oh, nominate Katie Kay to be an alternate on the Teacher Guardian Council.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you.
One of us.
You're allowed to.
All right.
Is there any discussion? All right. All those in favor of Katie Kay being the alternate to the teacher negotiation committee?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
I want you to email me your cell phone number. That way, if we know we're going to be down in person, I can give a call or say, hey, are you available? And they're usually hybrid too. I mean, we try to have everybody in person. If we can.
Yeah.
That's more appropriate.
Okay.
I can just say a word from the supports negotiations point of view of using Chris, that last time our negotiations went very quickly and easily. And I was asking the question, well, do we really need to spend money on Chris? You know, we could have done that ourselves. But then this time they've been more complicated, and he's been a big help in helping us focus what we want and helping us come up with what we want to present. Both because of his knowledge of what's going on in historically and in other districts. And so it would have been, this time around, it would have been very hard to have done it, I think, without him.
And the idea of counselor is apt, because that is supposed to be the primary role. It's not supposed to be combative. From his perspective, his job is to counsel as best he can our party and the other as much as possible to try to come to a resolution. And he's done a good job at that.
Is there, I don't know how to ask and make it not, I'm going to ask this, and if it can't be answered in public, we'll just move on. Are there other sticking points other than what you mentioned about the salary schedule at this point? Can we ask that an open question and have it answered or not?
Technically, I think because we hit mediation, we probably can discuss it, but I would open it up probably to the teachers that are here to talk about it or represent it if they're willing. I think from our perspective, and so this will be good, I think, to hear, is it seems like the biggest concern, there are a couple other smaller language concerns, but the biggest concern right now is trying to resolve that, the step and scale issue.
You like to hear the negotiator?
The negotiator. I'd love to talk about things. We've been advised not to really discuss things outside of negotiations. So that's
no, I appreciate that.
That's the main thing. And I think if that was resolved, everything else would be pretty quick. I'm happy to say that.
Okay.
But that's as much as I can say.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
No, I didn't know how much we could say at this point in public. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Any other comment about support staff or teacher negotiations? Sorry.
Can I just say one?
Yeah.
I just, like, as, I know times have changed, but I was on the board when, one meeting, the teachers brought the food, and the next meeting, the board brought the food. And it was a conversation between a board and the union representatives. And that's what is on that contract. Contract is not negotiating with press. It's not negotiating with Lane. It is a contract between the board and the staff. So just a reminder that I know times are different and they changed, but it wasn't that long ago that it was a very, it was amicable and social and, it's just a reminder that that's really what that contract says. It is an agreement between these two parties.
Thank you.
So you can have some guidance and you can have, feedback and whatever, but that's the bottom line.
I'm glad you said that because in the beginning of negotiations, so Katie Benson and I were like brand new to the board, we're brand new to negotiations. And we literally sat there at the first meeting, we're like, she's like, I don't know. Okay, we'll just sit here. And we just stand at a desk like, I don't know if we're allowed to talk to them right now. I feel like we're in court,
It is. It's intimidating. I feel like with, all these other people. But I mean, I think the first time I did negotiations, there was, the superintendent was like on call. It was really a conversation. And I know things are different and I know it's different, but I just wanted to say that.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it was, we had a lot of brownies.
We did.
that sounds great. Try to bring that back. So who's biggest people to bar against
I would have had a brownie instead.
I had 2 pumpkin donuts and it makes you feel better. At least you had protein.
Administrator master contract.
So I spoke with Green Mountain board meeting, and they also have
Thanks,
an
guys.
interest. So it is going to be one of the agenda items with the principals coming up on Thursday next week.
Perfect. And then you'll bring drafts to us as appropriate. Okay. BSBA membership status.
That's for you to decide.
Yeah.
I asked Lane to put this on, because we said we weren't gonna pay him because we were mad at him. And I just think, do we want to revisit it briefly at each meeting? Do we have any reason right now to, I mean, right after we said we weren't going to let them play in our playground, they changed their position a bit, but we haven't paid them, correct? correct, because it's one bill for the entire district. It's not a Ludlow-Mount Holly bill.
Oh, okay. Does that change our?
My memory is,
Yeah, go ahead.
I hear an echo. Can you guys hear me?
You can.
Okay. My memory is that weren't we going to see how things shake out at their like annual October meeting or something? And based on how they're prioritizing the values and interests of our district, revisit at that point. Wasn't there talk about looking at this after the October meeting?
I very possibly. Cheryl, can you just clarify what you just said though? If we're paying the bill by the TRSU and not the district,
we would prorate it out based.
Okay.
I'd look back to see what we did. Sometimes we do it by enrollment.
So I guess what I'm asking, and maybe I'm not being clear, you get one bill and you would still pay the total cost of that bill, except you would prorate it for just the districts that wanted to be a part of it.
I don't know that I could do that. That's what I reach back out to VSBA to see how they bill us, because I don't know how they bill us to know how to divide it.
Right. Right. Because maybe the bill would be less because you were like, I only have 2 schools that want to do it. So maybe it would be,
I guess it's based on enrollment.
Right.
So probably not going to change the bill for you guys. That's not part of it.
No,
it's just you're going to be in that.
It's just digging in our fields a bit, right? Okay.
I'm gonna say
So we'll
figurative more than financial resistance.
Here's a question though, is like what happened with the redistricting committee? Does the board want to create an actual communication from the board directly to the SBA as well, or?
Well, I mean, in some ways, by proposing the resolution that we did, and the resolution, I'll go online tomorrow to discuss it with them, and then it'll be discussed. I think there's the regional meeting September 30th. I think that's the right date, with our VSBA regional people, and then the annual meeting is the end of October. And so, to me, I think. If we consider what happens at those 3 meetings in November, we could decide whether we want to make a change. That would be my suggestion anyway.
Okay. And we'll just keep it on the front burner a little bit so that we know we're not going to forget it. First reads of policies.
So to make this hopefully easy on folks, we transitioned the district website from one platform to another. It's on Google now, like the other schools are. During that process, we were changing around the formatting of the district policies and how they show up on the website to hopefully make the access a little bit easier. There were some policies that are required that were missing. There were some that were a bit out of date. And so we figured the easiest thing to do at this point in time was all the required policies, which the VSBA actually write out the language for, is that we get those in front of the board and just start from scratch and start anew and make sure that we've got everything worded the way that it's supposed to be. So there's not a lot of substantive changes typically in these required policies. 99% of the time, what they are doing is they're changing the wording to make things a little bit more clear about intent. So I can leave that there. So these policies are mandatory. You have to do them anyway. There's really not a lot of room to change the language much unless there's a deep concern. We could ask our own legal counsel if we could, but our legal counsel is the one that writes them.
That was going to be my only question really was, does this go into legal review or like, what's the next step?
Yeah, so VSBA uses Linlin and Blackman usually for these. We work with PHON and how to.
And when do we need to, if we have any concerns or edits, when do we need to submit those?
So you get 2 reads. So this one is just, giving you the update. So between now and the next time, the next board meeting is when you can kind of review it, and then we can have that discussion at the second reading.
And then we would vote on them, hopefully then, if
everything looks good.
Changes, yeah. I am curious on another board I'm on, because I'm on this board, I get to go to all sorts of meetings.
Anything else in the evening?
In a while. I leave town to do it though. There's a policy and about it seemed like it was new and not completely new, but about gender and but so drastically different that they're creating it as a new policy. And I haven't seen it come through at TRSU, and I haven't seen it come through here, and I can't find it on the website, and that's why I told you I don't know how to use this.
Yeah, they sent out an update. I think it was yesterday. I'm happy to take a look at again, just to see if anything changes. That one's not striking a chord.
Okay.
There are 3 categories of policies. There's what you have to have, which is what these are.
Right.
There are recommended ones, which may be what that falls under, and then there are ones that are kind of more specific to our district that we do, and the VSBA has some language around it we can borrow.
It just seemed like
if you know the name of it,
I can find it really easily if you give me a minute later.
Yeah, and I'll take a peek just to make sure we're not missing
Yeah,
anything.
it seemed funny to me that it hadn't come through, and
these aren't all of the policies, by the way, right? They're in categories like personnel and student life. This is just the categories A and B. It goes up through F. So our goal is to get 2 of the categories in front of you each board meeting until we've got them all done.
Okay.
Got that.
And then committee reports. World School Community Alliance. That's you, Dave.
So the redistricting commission, they've had a couple of meetings now. So far, they've mostly focused on process. And they've been very little discussion of substance. And so I haven't seen much of interest yet. We'll see. Last night, I met with the Mount Holly Select Board. And as you recall that last month, we approved a resolution saying, go ahead and merge supervisory unions if it'll save us money and still give us the services, but don't merge districts, keep the basic control local. And so I went to the Select Board meeting to ask them to consider passing a similar resolution. And they certainly agreed with the idea that decision-making should be local. But then, of course, being a select board there and community members there, they started asking a lot of questions. And one of the questions was whether we shouldn't be looking toward Mill River, as we're thinking about merging, since so many of the Mount Holly kids, go to school at Mill River. And they did ask the question, and maybe you can dig it up for next time, Cheryl. Where do the Mount Holly students end up going to high school? And how many of them are at Mill River? How many are at Green Mountain? And without itemizing, how many are other places?
I think we got a readout of, I remember seeing.
We got a readout showing the whole district.
Ludlow or Mount Holly student.
Okay.
Right. So they of course were interested in the Mount Holly kids.
Yeah.
Rather than the Ludlow kids. But it did raise the question of which directions we ought to be looking at. And some of them even went a step further and said, well, if Chester wants to go and Green Mountain want to go east towards Springfield, should Ludlow-Mount Holly consider, going toward Rutland? Which again, personally, I'm happy with our supervisory union. But depending how big the union, if it's from us to Bellows Falls, that's a long distance.
Especially when you have.
And Mill River is much closer.
Right.
But on the other hand, Mill River, they might get to the recommended number, by just including the Rutland, the rest of Rutland County.
Dave, can I ask a clarifying question? Are you saying that people at that meeting were asking, if we
Can end
merge
school choice
before the state, if all of this goes through, assuming all of it went through exactly as we think it would right now, the people at the select board meeting last night were wishing to merge before all of that happens to prevent, to sort of have that's what I'm confused about. Or are they hoping that in this process, we actually get a say, and then Mount Holly could choose to move to Mill River and Ludlow could choose to go to wherever made sense for them? Is that what you're saying?
I was the latter. Yeah.
Okay.
We're not in any rush. Our select board. They were not in any rush to do anything, but then they were more thinking, I was trying to get them to focus on what should we be communicating to the redistricting commission. And I think, again, they wanted to, first of all, make sure that, yes, we retain local control, that ultimately decisions about which schools should be open get decided here and not in Bellows Falls and Springfield. But the second and it wasn't but they're hoping consideration is given, would be the right way to put it, to looking toward Mill River. Since again, if so many of our kids are going to school there, and right now we don't have any influence, on that board, we pay the tuition. And it was I'd honestly say it was a question and not a firm position.
What's the Mill, do you know the Mill River tuition right now?
Pretty low, off the top of my head. I don't know.
Wasn't it 18?
No, I don't think they're 18. They're in the 20s.
And so,
More than 8.
if the intent, I would argue that if the intent of doing that is to position things better for the Holly wants to be, it's probably a good idea. If the intent is that it's going to save money, ain't going to happen.
No, I think it was primarily to say that if our kids are going to high school there, shouldn't our board have some influence on how the high school there is run? Yeah.
I think the majority of our kids do go to Mill River, but certainly not all of them. Long Trail's the next big one, I think, for Mount Holly.
Do you remember roughly how many go to Long Trail?
There's a big bubble of 6th graders from last year that went to Ludlow.
I actually haven't seen it for this year, so I don't know.
Isn't that Phil?
I know there's at least.
What? Long Trail.
Isn't that like
3 or 4?
Yeah.
London?
Just from south of us.
And then probably more each grade levels going up.
Yeah.
Year.
Excuse me?
I really don't know.
So we got people watching.
The only other thing I'd add is that on my own and not representing the school board, I wrote a letter to the redistricting commission. The law says that the district should be between 4,000 and 8,000 students where practical. And I only asked the question, how are you going to define where practical? And one criterion that I suggested was it shouldn't be more than a half-hour drive from the headquarters of the supervisory union to any one of the schools in the union. That if the school was more than a half-hour drive away, they were unlikely to be getting the level of services.
We already
they should
don't have that in our district.
Yeah, it's a long ride from being that.
Well, it's
Just Chester.
It's no more than a half hour.
I was thinking about the distance between Mount Holly and Green Mountain.
Yeah, that's a longer trip.
Right. No, but
That's already 45.
I mean, the people.
And not on a bus.
Right. No, the people who are in the district providing services aren't more than a half hour away. in their office from any one of the schools.
So I have a question. There's not really any solid anything, but I thought I saw something about, how it could be partitioned up in like Rutland County and Windsor County, like there would be a partition. Well, we are Rutland and Windsor County, so like, how's that gonna affect us? Like, are we gonna have?
The $1 million question.
Good question.
Obviously, I have really no control over any of this, but I have a significant interest in wanting to go to Mill River from my own issue, and a lot of other parents who work in Rutland County who would never make it to a ball game in Chester. If
Springfield is
or Springfield.
Yeah.
That's an hour.
There's a lot of things up in the air that the state isn't thinking about, and one of it is the biggest thing on my mind right now is just the humans will make it work because that's what teachers do, and that's what parents do, and that's what kids do, and life will be what it is. But the problem is that our infrastructure and our systems aren't going to be able to tolerate it. And nothing is set up to house that many children in anywhere. And in order to make that piece of it feasible, it's either going to crash before they figure it out, or it's going to cost so much money ahead of the game that they will start to realize that it's impossible and this is not the answer. But I would hope that somebody's thinking logically, but I don't have any faith in that.
I remember like when I was a kid, that's just what my mom said, right? Like Vermont had like a really good school system. Like we were like
third in the nation.
Yeah, third in the nation.
Yeah.
And now we're like, really, your stuff isn't working, state.
In 15 years, we've gone from third to like 15th.
This isn't working. You're not making anything better. Everything you've done is saying that you're going to make it better. You're making it more cost efficient. Nothing's been better.
The
smaller schools have worked for this. Like,
Make sure you're emailing your representatives. Get your voice heard.
I think the two pieces to kind of play on a little bit to both. One of the things that I've noticed coming here from Massachusetts is that the state itself, the legislators have done a lot of mandates that have changed the face of how we educate kids, and none of them have worked.
Right.
And yet they've never taken them off the books, so we're still stuck using systems that suck. And I'll be blunt about it. And cost a lot of money and a lot of time that could have been better invested elsewhere. And, the second year I was here, I was harping about, there needs to be a moratorium. You need to give districts at least 5 years that you don't change anything. Because had any of the things that they were concerned about actually worked, scores across the state would be going up instead of down. So I put that on the legislators, not the teachers, and not everybody else that's hardworking. Your piece is vitally important because they are setting up a system where you're going to have to react to whatever blows up in front of you at the time that it blows up. We do not have a structure that accommodates that because most of what you need to deal with those blow-ups is financial. It takes us a whole year or more before we're able to get the money for something that blows up in front of our face now. So there are going to be catastrophic problems if they don't do a little bit of pre-thinking and pre-planning, or at least if nothing else, put a giant fund aside that can be tapped into at need to cover the fact that, they've been short-sighted because they've been moving so fast.
But they'll never do that because they're barely going to have any savings in the first place. So if they put a fund, I agree with you, like they should, but I don't see that happening.
Cheryl and then Julie.
So I have like 77 students. This is just a quick. 48 go to Mill River, 4 go to BBA, 4 to go to Black River Expeditionary, 1 Mill River, 2 Green Mountain, 11 Long Trail, 1 MSJ, 1 West Rutland, 3 White River Valley, 2 Woodstock. So 60%. 60%.
Can you send an email?
I was going to say.
60%. Write that down.
Dave was holding the pen and he didn't write it.
How you part of it? Strict when it goes together is
But thank you.
Yeah, they didn't think about it when they forced the people.
Right.
Julie? Sheets when you come in.
My comment is that it's hard for me based on, I mean, I've been following it pretty closely in the legislative, tracking even during the last legislative session. It's really hard for me to take the legislation that did pass seriously because it wasn't based on data or actual projections, at least that were transparent. And I fully support like radical change ideas, particularly when you have a system that is, sort of beset by so many challenges and things like that. But in any change process, this is like a 10-year plan to me. This is not like a, 2-year thing. And so I guess my point, and furthermore, it's hard for me to take it seriously because it didn't even seem at the time like the legislators did. I mean, so many people voted yes, but then just said, I don't really know if this is going to do anything, but I'm just going to, vote yes, which was, disappointing given the sort of, responsibility, I think, of people who hold that position. But I am, my understanding is that this districting effort is a required criteria of the legislation continuing to be implemented within the state, meaning that if the committee doesn't come up with the 3 or fewer maps for the legislature to consider, and if the legislature, in an election year, I will add, doesn't pass a map, which is widely reported to be sort of a highly political exercise, and folks are going to be running for re-election and so forth, that the whole Act 73 sort of vanishes or is stalled or, put on hold. My suggestion and preference for our district would be that we not make any changes in anticipation of something that I think is very likely to not come to fruition or come to fruition in a way that it is fundamentally changed from what we understand it to be now. So if the legislature passes an amendment during the next session, which changes the timelines or changes the goals or changes the work because people don't want to make a brave decision about, real solutions, that I guess I would rather us sort of wait to see what happens and what the fallout is at the state level before we take any action or, trigger any steps because of what we think might happen. So that's just my vote.
No, I agree.
I agree.
To your earlier comment, Julie, also about representatives and legislators and not always being really aware of how it's going to pan out. I did sit in on a forum of representatives and legislators from southern-ish Vermont, where I asked a question about bigger systems and community systems supporting schools, because that I think is really where our mental health and a lot of our issues stem from. And their response was, well, we meet once a month and have donuts.
Oh my God. Wow.
So, yeah. That was their solution to the mental health crisis and how it affects our kids and our schools.
Wow.
One last piece of this, because you actually asked the question to TRSU about, is there any data out there about what the cost is per student ever since, Act 60 went? The Rural Alliance Community published it, the
Oh,
other
good.
day. I was actually trying to find it to ship it to you because it's in my inbox somewhere. When I find it, I'll send it.
Or if you have it. My question.
The gist of it was that looking at per pupil spending, the most expensive were the supervisory districts that had been combined under Act 46, over their objections. So they were spending the most per pupil. And the supervisory unions with independent districts like ours were spending the least per pupil. And it wasn't a huge difference, but it might have been $1,000 per pupil. It wasn't 10%.
Right.
But it was significant.
My original question was, do we have data that says as we started with 60, 68, 40, 46, 73, like what has happened? And we brought it up earlier with our test scores compared to our acts and the historical progression of that and the correlation, and is it working? And we know the answer, but is there a very clear
And
data that we can compare and
I think the short answer is no. A Yale undergraduate did a thesis trying to sort of answer that question. But the data, they were too rough. They sort of compared what districts were spending after the merger to before. COVID was in there. So it's hard to assign causality to almost anything.
But if the general trend has been we're spending more and quality is diminishing statewide, that seems pretty clear. Like that's a pretty, safe thing to say is true based on the data we do have. And the fact that our schools in Two Rivers are going directly against that trend, that we're spending below the state average per pupil, and our results are going up to have schools that are getting into the top 10 despite all of this, that's, and all of our schools are moving in the right direction. All the data is showing that we're bucking all of the damage that's being done to Vermont schools.
Is the state going to look at that? Are they going to look at all that?
They didn't look at any of it when
they have a bias towards big and better.
right. They looked at a survey in Boston.
And they said, because they asked the financial group that's a part of the state, what is the true impact going to be? And they said, there's no way in heck we can calculate this, or there's
they refused.
Yeah, it wasn't that they couldn't. There was no possible way they could.
Yeah.
Just to touch on a subject that I think is important, and it goes back to the testing data. Ninth grade at Green Mountain Union there were some significant jumps for all the schools in terms of VCAP. Ninth grade ELA was probably, from what I can see, is the biggest jump overall of any school in the TRSU district. Their math jumped by a significant amount, probably 3 times what's statistically significant. So there's improvements across the district. Middle school they've got some projects and things that they're working on now. But I just want to point that out because Louisa didn't touch on the ninth grade.
Yeah. All right. Are we good with committee reports?
Right. I don't think we need to do anything now.
They're doing a lot. I give them credit. It's pretty impressive to see the work that little committee has done.
Right. But I don't think we need any board action.
Yeah.
Well, as individuals, we can send emails.
Yeah. If you can come to the next select board meeting next month, it might be.
She's like, what? I don't even go to enough
You
meetings.
just felt bad for how many meetings I have to go to.
I'll go if you remind me.
Policies approved at this meeting, none, but we hopefully will have some next time. Community input, second public comment. Anybody online?
I don't see any hands.
Left. Yeah.
Nothing online.
Nothing. You good? All right.
I'm good.
Future meetings.
Waiting on coffee and donuts.
Round brownies. October 18th.
That's not
That
right.
seems very late.
That's
That's
not right.
can't be right. Yeah.
It should be, it ought to be the 11th, all right?
Yeah, it should be the 8th.
18th is Saturday. I'm not gonna.
Okay.
It better be brownies
We'll
and not
double check
wine.
and post it.
Yeah, it's the 8th.
Just some
I'll check with the
little one accidentally typed in there.
Okay. Okay, so, for the agenda on that meeting, I would ask that, can you give us some preliminary budget? And, you know, I mean, if, you know, to the extent that you can, I mean,
We'll see what we can do.
yeah, I mean, we did talk. Yeah.
I just had a thought in my head. Oh, also, I don't know if it's in the future as well. But today's board meeting appeared on my calendar to be here and in Ludlow. Which made it hard for my brain to know where to go.
Mine did too.
Thank
Mine
you.
looked like that too.
Sure that doesn't happen in the future.
Was that on the warning calendar?
I don't know. It's on the what shows up on my phone and tells me
Right.
what to do.
Gotcha.
It is my frontal lobe.
I always look at the TRSU.
That's right. I got to Ludlow and I was like, and I pulled over and I looked at the website, but my phone told me to go to both places. So
No, the website one's right. Probably what was sent out to you probably earlier on was wrong, and then
yeah, then you corrected it or something. Yeah, but if we can delete
You gotta make sure.
something, yeah, because it's confusing to me, and if it ends up in the public eye, that I don't want that to happen.
Does that come to you like a shared link? Like this is, click yes if.
I think it's the first time because I actually have it in there 3 times because
Right.
I put it in myself.
And then
And then now all of a sudden there's
Okay.
2 more. So I think it's something new he's doing, which I appreciate
Yeah.
because I can actually see where it is. Which in the past I couldn't. I had to actually open the agenda and look. So I love the fact that it appeared there. It just, yeah, I appreciate that piece of it. And I love that. And I would really hate for that part to change. Just would like it to be one and correct.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. No, I'm trying to narrow it down to what it could be. So I think I
The
know.
whole state, my filter
That's
goes
a lot.
further downhill. You know that.
Link, I have a question. Am I correct that teacher health insurance, we're still in public comment, correct? I can ask a question. Yes?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. That teacher health insurance is negotiated at the state level?
Yes. Yeah. And that was one of the things that harmed taxes across the state when the state did that.
Yeah,
Yes.
so my question is, are we under, is that locked into a multi-year contract or is that negotiated from year to year?
It's usually 2 years at a pop. I don't know when the next time it's up.
I'm not sure what it is, but they did a hold for a couple of years to try to settle things out. But they also want to change legislation because right now it says if they go to mediation, which is what we've done for the last 2 years, they have to pick one or the other. They want to be able to say, we like this of the unions, but we like this of the admin and combined it. And right now they can't. They either have to go all with this, the union or
last of the union offers or the last of the the state offer.
So I think they were kind of kicking it down the road a little bit to be able to make those legislative changes that would benefit.
I'll let me confirm the data for you, and I'm happy. I'll email it to you, and I'll bring it to the next board meeting.
Yeah, because I guess the point of my questions on this are whether we think that the again, another year of significant increases in health insurance will hit our budget in a dramatic way this year.
Yes, it's historically, and I'm remembering back to when we calculated it. It's always double digits, but it's historically somewhere between 12 and 14% increases on average. They're huge.
Huge.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, it's always like Cheryl's saying, it's always double digits. So I would, if the 100-year trend in Vermont of that remains true, I expect it to be true next year as well. Yeah.
Is that
so? As long as the state is tackling the big That seems like that one's like, that cuts across private sector, public sector, school children, non-school children.
Yeah. Well, it's gonna, if this all goes through, the eventual end state will be a statewide teacher's contract, statewide insurance, everything will be consistent across the entire state. Statewide curriculum, so
Calendar, yeah.
everything.
Kelly's got to retire.
Good, very good points. But I'll get that data too, because we were actually talking about it the other day a little bit.
How does it compare to other, like municipal retirement, or, I mean, I think that's
Other states?
one of this. Well, I don't know. Like, I think municipal retirement's kind of one and the same, right? They negotiate that too.
It's very,
But,
very
like,
poor compared to
private-
teachers. The municipal is.
Municipalities don't negotiate at the state level for health insurance.
But the team that negotiates the, what do I want to say, how the benefits, the shares of the benefits in the plan, that is separate from the premium on which it goes up. That's determined by VISBIT, and they have to go to RDF or some acronym and get approval for the rates, the board, I can't think what it's called. But they have to go get the rates approved, they have to justify the rates. And what you're hearing in the news about Blue Cross Blue Shield, we are a self-insured plan, so our rates don't necessarily follow what's in the
Got
public.
it. Okay. Yeah, I think you're thinking of the Green Mountain Care Board.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll let you know. RDF, there's an acronym she gives every time.
Other public comment? Sorry, we're at future meetings anyways. We're correcting that to the 8th in Ludlow. And then we are on to our
Are there other agenda items we want to make sure?
Self-evaluation.
Yeah. Board members were given and read the agenda and background material prior to the meeting.
Yes.
Respectful of each other, the public and the administration.
Yes.
Yeah.
Board members handled conflict openly and constructively.
Yes.
We focused on the role and responsibility of the board.
Yes.
And also just like Lisa's input on that, just while we're here. Board members act as a team once a decision has been made and work collaboratively throughout the decision-making process.
Yes.
I know.
I am, it's like,
We work well together.
Yeah, we did good. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move.
Second it. All those in favor?
Aye.